Welcome to the Longbox Paradox. My name's Dan, and back this week for episode 19, we're going to be going over a couple of releases I curated that I kind of wanted to talk about. So my first book, episode 9 trailer teaser released the other day, and I was kind of drawn to want to talk about one of the Star Wars books that released this week because honestly, it had a cool cover and that drew me in, and it was Star Wars TIE Fighter. Right away, again, the cover kind of drew me in. I always thought the TIE Fighter pilots had a cool look. And then I saw the writer of it was Jody Houser. I have enjoyed her writing on a lot of books. The art in it was decent. It was some of the Star Wars books have really impressive art. This one was decent, but it was a little bit lesser than some of the others. I'm trying not to crap on the art. Like, it was good, but it was just, when you compare to some of the other titles, it was not in that league. The artists Roge Antonio and Michael Dowling. Right away, this book kind of introduces you to something you don't really see in the Star Wars books. It gives you a cast of characters that you actually see the Imperial side, how some of their pilots and troopers interact and how their feelings are about what they're actually doing. In this, we're introduced to Tesso Bruges, Genum Kahi, Zin Gra, Gila Brebton, and Lytton Dree. They're an interesting group of characters. Again, you're seeing how they talk about the rebels. It humanizes the enemy side. They're actually rather compelling characters. Probably one of the more impressive books, especially about not the main villains, but you have this ragtag group of pilots, and they're, trying to fight the rebellion. I really like Jody Houser's writing on this. Again, it humanizes this side that really doesn't get touched on most of the time. I was impressed. It was a good first release. The second was broken into two parts. There was a second half that focused on Zin, and I definitely recommend picking this book up. Compared to some of the other Star Wars books, it's not top tier, but I'm drawn in on this first issue, and I highly recommend picking it up, especially if you want to learn more about what the Imperial side goes through, their thought processes. Again, Jody Houser is an author that has progressed with my picking up of her books, and I am more and more impressed as her writing catalog starts building. So definitely please go pick this up. There was a bunch of other Star Wars books this week, but this one to me was the standout. Although one of the other books had IG-88 in it, and that's a character I thought was underused, but that's a whole story for another day. Next up, I have Daredevil number 4. Continuing on my love affair with Chip Zdarsky and Marco Checchetto's art and story, this one just picks up right where the last one left off, with Daredevil basically got the hell kicked out of him. The Punisher saved him, and we have the cop who beat him in front of everybody being chastised that he caused a major problem that now they're going to have to clean up. Most of the issue is spent with Daredevil and Punisher having their philosophical back and forth, where Punisher thinks Daredevil finally crossed the line. Daredevil is, basically having you're crazy. They have a normal Daredevil Punisher thing where, one has to prove they're more right than the other one's trying to seduce them to doing what they think is right. There is a battle between them. It's pretty bloody. Daredevil has I don't want to really spoil anything in this book, But he ends up abusing Frank, and at the end we see a Daredevil wearing the Punisher shirt. It was an interesting issue. Also, the police officer, I really need to remember his name, but he gets a call from Wilson Fisk, setting up another story arc that I think will be kind of fascinating. Again, this issue was mainly about Frank and Matt and basically this dance they've done all these years. Yes, the Punisher is psychotic. They do not mince the fact that, he is kind of a villain. Villain that weirdly kills villains. Yeah, so this perfectly fits in this run. It's great. I was disappointed to see in one of the newest previews that Checchetto is not on Daredevil in, I guess it would be June's releases. He is not on the art on the Daredevil book, but it's in that weird War of the Realms crossover, so I'm not sure how it all fits together. I'll be real sad if Checchetto leaves. Maybe he's getting a small break. Zdarsky is still on it, so I'm going to be still on this book. Highly recommend picking it up. Zdarsky has been impressive and continues to grow as a writer, and I definitely just go pick it up. You should. It's a great buy. Image. I don't want to even talk much more about it. East to West was my big book this week, and if you're not reading it so far, get on it. I talked about it in my preview, but it's coming to an end, so get on now and just start picking up the trades, because by the time you catch up, probably the last trade will be out. And it's a book to be read and enjoyed. And now for my spec of the week, which is already blown up on the secondary market. You're probably not picking it up cheap if you didn't go to your store the day of release. And that would be DC Comics Naomi, book by Brian Michael Bendis, David Walker, and fantastic art by Jamal Campbell. So, as promised, this is the issue where we find out Naomi's heritage, where she came from, what her origin story is, which they kind of tell you, kind of don't. It's not quite as vague as with Crush, because, there is, kind of, as mostly talking about her adopted parents. So we find out her father, as you saw in the last issue, if you've been reading, he showed her his spaceship, and he came out wearing the armor of what the warriors of the planet Ron would wear, like Adam Strange wears. And he reveals that he was part of one of the many Ron Thanagar wars, and he was sent to Earth to kill the Mechanic D, who was a Thanagarian assassin. So he goes to Earth, goes to hunt him down, meets D, and kind of sees he's not quite what his reputation was. He's kind of broken. And as he's walking around this town, he meets what's soon to be his wife, which is the typical alien comes, finds interesting Earth girl, falls in love, and then just kind of forgets what his mission was, and nobody really called, no one tried anything. Discovers he can't have kids with his new wife, and they want to adopt, but because, he's a space guy, it's kind of hard to adopt. It's very hard. And then randomly one day, he has this energy beacon signature thing that starts going off, and he goes to where it's beeping to, and D is there, and they're both saying, this has never happened. And these characters jump through, a warp, and it looks like they're trying to kill a mother and her child. They battle them off, and as it happens, the child is given to them and has a little rock, I guess it would be, sort of. As is all going down, Naomi's kind of, shocked, and, her parents are very kind of matter-of-fact about the whole thing, which is sort of funny. It's an interesting kind of side effect of like learning all this, and she's sitting in the spaceship and wearing the Adam Strange Ranian helmet. And as this is going on, they say like, oh, underneath the seat is the stuff that you had when you were given to us found. And as she touches it, the flicker in her eye is of a White Lantern symbol. So I'm not sure how this fits in with the mythos of the White Lantern, because all we really had before has been Kyle Rayner, and I'm not sure how this all plays out. I guess Bendis kind of do whatever he wants, as long as it somewhat fits into the Jeff Johns mythos, which I think are still in effect. Maybe very odd. Not 100% how this is all going to work out, but it was fascinating because everybody was betting, because of the way Superman kept appearing in the first issue, that she'd end up being Kryptonian, and then have this twist. And this Kryptonian theory got so out of hand that people were guessing, because on issue 1002, they showed Superman with a young African-American girl, and that book jumped up to $20 because of that, and it even got so far out of control that Bendis had to post on Twitter that no, that's not her first appearance. It was never meant to be her first appearance. It's not even the same character. It's just people kind of clutching at straws, and it's that funny thing about speculation where someone just takes a wild guess and people catch on, and kind of like with Thor, where they thought when the She-Thor started appearing, people were guessing that it was going to be the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, Rosalind, can't remember the last name, but her first appearance started jumping up to $40, and it all ended up coming down around their heads when it turned out it was Jane Foster. Spoiler if you didn't know, it was Jane Foster. But all around, like, fascinating kind of to see how this all kind of can blossom out of control with just someone kind of making a random dart throw. Naomi has been probably the standout of the Wonder Comics run, and continues to be a solid book. Again, Jamal Campbell, his art is fantastic. I don't know if this is going to be that kind of book with long legs on it like would happen with Miles Morales' Spider-Man, but I feel like since they're not using Kryptonian or anything else, that this gives them more room to breathe and work around and make her own, and that is a good thing in my opinion. There's way too many Kryptonians as it is in my thought processes, so anything different I think is actually appreciated. Yeah, so 1 through 4 are high dollar books now. The print run for 4 was actually higher than the others. I think someone had said it's around 20,000, which it's not large, especially for a DC book. But I imagine there's going to be many, many printings of this series. It might be too expensive if you're just jumping on now, so you might want to trade, wait, or buy digital. But again, very impressive. This is probably, other than Action Comics, my favorite of Bendis's run since he's gotten over to DC, at least of superhero books, because I've really enjoyed Pearl. Pearl is something different, and that is something I appreciate. And I also like Michael Gaydos' art. So yeah, high marks on this. It's a buy if you can afford it or if you've been able to get it. And moving on to some stuff that I think you should check out, besides East to West, which I already mentioned. The Magic Order trade paperback is out, and I think it will actually work better in one sitting as a trade as opposed to the single floppies. Again, that's just the way it read for me, because a lot going on in that book, and you can just jet through it. Fantastic art by Koipel. One of actually the better Miller stories lately. I like Miller's stuff, but I thought this was actually had a little more depth than normal, where it just, didn't feel like it was just a quick moving movie script. The Aquaman cover by Joshua Middleton I really liked. Not a whole lot of covers I was really watching this week, but that was one of them. Next week we have Ascender coming out, which I'm a huge fan of. Descender by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. So I can't wait for that to come out. I've been waiting and waiting, and finally it's going to be here, and I can't wait. I'm trying to think what else is. Oh yes. I know I'm going to end up hate reading it, or someone's going to say something that's going to bring it, and I'm sure it's going to be amazing because every issue of Heroes in Crisis has been amazing. Not really. Heroes in Crisis number 8 is going to come out. I can't wait for the next gut punch about what horrible thing they're going to do to Wally West because, you know, God forbid something good happened to Wally West since Rebirth. Or since New 52. Yeah, so not looking forward to that release, but I'm sure my morbid curiosity is going to kick in, and then I'll start banging my head against my desk because of Tom King's writing on it. I'm sure the dialogue will be fantastic for Batgirl again. You know, how many times should you say like? That's enough of my complaining, and I just want to show off something that I got recently in the mail. My buddy Andy Sports Cards from Blowout. I do a lot of pre-ordering from him of comics to be graded, and I finally got a 9.9, and I couldn't be more overjoyed to finally get a 9.9. Yes, the Batman Damn books are easier to get high grades on, but still, nonetheless, I got a 9.9. Thank you, Indy. I really appreciate it, and also for warehousing all my books for months, waiting for all of them to come in. I desperately appreciate it, and all the hard work you do, and keeping my habit alive. So, with that, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, watching. Like, subscribe, comment. Any books you think I should be reading, I'm missing out on, I might be reading and just haven't gotten to it yet. Anyway, I'd just like to hear what you think, what I could be adding. I started doing 0.5 episodes, so every probably Sunday or Monday, I'm going to be doing an episode talking about what's coming out that week and kind of highlighting what I might be picking up or what I think might be a solid spec or read. So thank you again, everybody, for spending your time with me. I really appreciate you tuning into my little hobby show. Thank you, and happy hunting.